But once we start becoming versed with how it works, you start realizing how magical life actually is, how guided we actually are, and how we just need to ask for that help.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Practical Shaman podcast. I am excited to be here today, and I'm going to open with a little wind whistling. So I invite you to close your eyes, unless you're driving, keep them open, and listen to the sounds of the wind. On the second wind breath, bring yourself present to this moment, to this day. And on our third wind breath, let's see us connected to everyone all around the world, because the wind connects us in a few short days.
Well, what? Yes.
And for those of you who are just tuning in, I'm Renee Barber, the Practical Shaman, the award-winning Hay House author of Winds of Spirit, which, like the author that I'm interviewing today, is a practical book. And actually, our books are designed in very similar ways when I was going through them last night. So Tammy Mastroberte is the best-selling and award-winning author, spiritual teacher, and wellness expert. Her mission is to help people use the simple and practical tools that are right at their fingertips to thrive in everyday life and create positive changes. Her book, The Higher Help Method, Stop Trying to Manifest and Let the Universe Guide You, it was published by Sounds True, came out this spring, and it's a powerful guide for creating the fulfilling life we are all striving for, using a variety of tools such as meditation and shifting your mindset to gain clarity in the moments we need it the most. By utilizing these tools, more individuals can manifest a life they love, waking up each day, especially in the areas where they feel stuck. Welcome. Is that your cat on your lap?
Yes.
It's always a good sign when the cat shows up for the interview, I always think.
Yes, definitely. She's very energy sensitive, this cat.
Mine is up there on the cabinet sleeping, but I just got an order of wind whistles in from Mexico. And no matter when the wind whistles come, whether from Chile or Mexico, I put them on the counter, and they always get the cat approval before we get started. And
Yes.
so I'm there in the box and sit there, and I'm there like, okay, so these are good to go.
That's awesome.
Does she help you write?
She does, and every morning I start my day off with a breathing exercise and meditation, and no matter where this cat is, she's in that little space with me as soon as I start. She comes running in, and she just hangs out with me the whole time.
That's great. How'd you like the wind whistle for a breathing meditation?
That was amazing. I've never heard one, and I think that's awesome.
Well, it kind of leads me, I thought about it because it kind of leads me into your book, which is really, when I was going through it, a really good book of tools.
Yes, 100%. I'm all about I feel like there's so many spiritual tools available to us that we can customize what works for us. And it's all about utilizing them to help us, whether we're trying to solve a problem, we're trying to create positive change, we're trying to create more calm in our life, whatever we're trying to do and navigate, there's spiritual tools to help that.
And another thing that hit me right off is that I was always critical, judgmental. I just walked the El Camino, and I had this stick of judgment that I learned to walk with. And it just reminded me of like, how critical and how judgmental you are all the time. And so one of my older judgments, which I'm now going to release today, because now that I've walked with this stick, everyone was walking with their metal pointed sticks on the Camino, clicking along on the cobblestone, and it was driving me nuts. And I'm there like, what is wrong with these people that they don't have rubber tips? So the very next day, I was doing my 111 insights in the morning on my Instagram, and I go to walk and I pull out the I pull out my walking sticks, and all of a sudden I had lost a tip. And here I was with my little judgmental click stick for the rest of the day. And so it just reminded me when I was thinking about my judgment about the movie The Secret. And I say that because for so many times, and I think your book addresses this really well, we were, that everyone was watching, and this was a long time ago. I think, the movie's probably been shelved in the book, and, people have probably gone back to the original book, but that, there was this whole idea that you could manifest. Like, I want a BMW convertible. I'm going to see myself sitting in this BMW convertible, and I'm going to be cruising on up the road. And meanwhile, I'm in the 2003 Volkswagen, with the top stuck in top up, and I really, my paint's chipping. And so I think that this is something you are addressing in this book.
Yes. There's so many different spiritual tools. I think The Secret brushed the surface maybe of some of those tools. But I don't think it really helped people, because there's still so many people that I get that come to me, whether they're my clients, students, people, those who take my classes, people in my membership community, that are still asking me, why is my manifesting not working, right? What am I doing wrong? I'm trying everything, right? And that's why the subtitle of the book is Stop Trying to Manifest and Let the Universe Guide You. Because most of the time I find we're trying all these things, but we're doing it on our own. We're doing it without that co-creation process, right? Because you're not doing anything on your own, and you shouldn't be doing anything on your own, because you have these higher helpers, the universe itself, this vast amount of higher resources available to us. And no matter who you are, no matter what your belief system, no matter what you grew up with, we all have access to this resource. And so I want people to stop trying so hard and stop trying to do it on their own, when you can tap into this resource that makes the process easier for you, and that allows you to take some of that stress off your shoulders, so you can stop blaming yourself for doing it wrong, which is what I think we always wind up doing.
That's true. In the book, you mentioned your Catholicism and your Catholic upbringing. Do you feel like that's an important part of your story?
It's definitely an important part of my story. And I think a lot of people who find themselves on a more spiritual rather than religious path have similar stories, whatever their background might be. But I do believe that my Catholic upbringing, which really, I went to Catholic school through 8th grade. High school was a bit of a shock for me. And it was very ingrained in my life. We went to church every week. That, I think, has allowed me to kind of marry my more spiritual approach while still holding on to some of the things that I learned, but kind of opening them up a little bit, making it not so narrow of a path. And so in the book, I share higher helpers from all backgrounds, right? And I include saints in that, because to me, they're available to you whether you grew up Catholic or not, the same way I can call on Buddha or Ganesha or, any other god or goddess. So I think that it definitely helped me, because I grew up with the belief of, if I need help, I need to say a prayer. If I need help, I can ask for that help. And there are specific saints who specialize in specific things that I can ask for help with. And so this book really took that belief and broadened it to encompass absolutely any belief or background. And I give it all so that people can customize and work with the higher helpers that resonate with them and the tools that resonate with them. So it definitely has an impact on me and my work today.
That's great. When I just finished walking the Camino, and you end up at the cathedral in Santiago, and of course, this is me. I bought the incense because they've got the big incense swinger there, and I bought the incense, and I just did a solstice gathering in the, and there's like 75 people out there, and I'm doing the Catholic incense for everyone, and it was just a sacred moment. And so many people afterwards said, wow, because I believe, and it sounds like you might be similar, is that we threw the baby out with the bathwater. When we left the church pews empty, we thought, oh, we're going to be, spiritual, but not religious. But we forgot the prayer, and we forgot the meditation, and we forgot the practices. And so all of a sudden, everyone's walking around with these, these spiritual billboards, but they were void of any action.
Yes. Yeah. No, I totally. And that's why, like, people say I'm, retired Catholic or formerly Catholic. I definitely don't practice the religion anymore, but I am so grateful for having been brought up in it, because there are aspects of it, like you said, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. There are aspects of it that truly are helpful, and that truly are, that run throughout religions and belief systems. And so I feel like no matter what you grew up in, you can certainly shift and change, but that's who you are, and that's a part of you. And what still resonates with you shouldn't be thrown away, right? It should be sort of incorporated into other things. And so for me, that Catholic background helped me to sort of create this higher help method that I didn't know I was creating. I was doing it for myself. I was trying to help myself at the time. But it helped me create that. And it really can be adapted no matter what background or where you are on that journey.
And before we get into the higher help methods, which we're going to, one of the things that I thought was what you were talking about is you have saints, and then there's, was it Thomas Edison, or maybe not Thomas Edison, but the guy with the electricity. It's like, so you have business angels as well as Catholic saints, and all of the archangels and the Buddhas and all of that. I kind of really like that. So what a great idea if you're talking about your business to actually call in, the spirit of somebody who was quite successful in business instead of an angel who doesn't know 5 cents from a quarter.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that I started doing that myself. And I remember Dr. Wayne Dyer, I actually had the privilege of interviewing him before he passed away. And after he passed away, I interviewed his daughters, 2 of his daughters. And they both said to me emphatically that their father came through, who was not a saint, who was not an ascended master, right? He was just a teacher in this world when he was here, an amazing one. And he said, please make sure that you get out there, that a person does not have to know me, and said this through a medium, of course, when they went and got this information, but a person does not have to know me, be part of my family, have ever met me, to ask me for help. And when I heard that, I thought, oh, that's what I believe. I believe that once we go, leave our physical body and our soul goes to the other side, the hereafter, whatever you want to call it. I believe we are all connected, and we are all one, and we are all equal in a way. And so if a spirit has gone on and had the vast experience, why not ask them for help? And I've had the most amazing stories from some of my students who have tried and really went outside the box and called in, things that you would never think of. And they're like, Tammy, it works. And I'm like, just try it. I promise you it works. So I say, like, if you're having a problem with an Apple product, your phone, your MacBook, why not ask Steve Jobs to help you come up with the answer, right? So yes, I include the archangels and the gods and the goddesses and the ascended masters and all of that, but I really do encourage people, why not ask for help from someone else on the other side? If you have to invest money, why not ask JP Morgan, right?
Exactly. I think that was great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send you Winds of Spirit afterwards, because in the back there's 32 wind gods and goddesses that you can also ask for help. And
that's amazing.
And when I first wrote it, like that you thought you were doing one thing and all of a sudden you're doing something else, we started to call upon these wind spirits, and they started to show up as energetics that were really useful for, like, during my walk on the Camino, I called in and I pulled a wind spirit card, and I got Tate, the wind of messenger. And every day I'd ask a question, and I swear I would ask the question, and 2 minutes later, I'd get the answer. And you talk about that in your book about, that you ask a question, but you have to look for the answer.
Yes, yes. And the thing is, a lot of people, well, I'd say most people, we're not really taught how the universe speaks to us, right?
Mhm.
We're not really taught about how the universe, our angels, loved ones on the other side speak to us. And so my first book, The Universe is Talking to You, is all about how the universe talks to us and how we can open up to it. And it's an important piece because you ask for help and then you have to be able to recognize some of those answers. And part of the asking for help process for me and what I teach people is don't just ask for the help, ask for the universe, your angels, or whatever higher helpers you're working with to send you signs, synchronicities, ideas, opportunities, the overheard conversation, the resource, and help you recognize that when it arrives. Just simply asking for that piece can assist in it. But often the universe will, we'll get all of a sudden we'll get a brilliant idea and we think we're brilliant. And it's like, well, you probably are brilliant, but I definitely think that the universe can pop something into your head when you ask for help or make you do something that you don't even know why you're doing it, right? Or overhear that conversation in the line at the grocery store that suddenly sends you on a path that gives you the answer you need. That's how the universe works. And we just don't realize it, so we don't give it credit for the help that it's already providing for us. But once we start becoming versed with how it works, you start realizing how magical life actually is, how guided we actually are, and how we just need to ask for that help.
Absolutely. Like the universe taking the rubber chip off my walking stick so that I could get a full day experience, what it was like to walk with that stick that clicked. And,
yes.
To use it as a measure of when I'm being judgmental, going forward, so you can actually make change. I know for me, one of the things that I found was that's the part that most people skip out on, is the part of taking the action. There was an example you used where you wanted to rebrand.
Yes.
So you took the course, and it was through the course somebody else was talking about the rebranding. So that it's like, if you're not following your own breadcrumbs, then you're going to miss all of the signs.
Yes, 100%. You have to, and the fourth step of the higher help method is receiving the signs, but then taking action on them. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people get stuck in that action phase because they don't want to take the wrong action. They don't want to mess it up. They don't want to move a certain way and then wind up more miserable maybe than they are, now. But number one, you can't take a wrong action, I have found, because the universe is constantly guiding you and redirecting you. So if you move to the right and you're supposed to go to the left, a roadblock will be picked up, will be put up in front of you. Something will happen and you'll wind up getting redirected to the way that you're supposed to go. But at least you're moving. The other piece of that is if you're not doing anything and you're just sitting here and saying, I don't know why the universe is not helping me. And meanwhile, you've heard the name of a particular doctor 4 times in the last 3 weeks from, 4 different people. Like, the universe is like, I'm trying to help you, but you're not making that phone call. You have to move forward and take a chance on things that are coming to you so that those breadcrumbs can continue to drop. Otherwise, you're just going to sit where you are and say, I'm stuck and I don't know why.
Yeah, that's what it really should. So this probably would be a good time to tell people, what are the 4 steps, the 4-step method in your book?
Yes. So the first step is, and really the first 90 pages of the book explain the method. The rest of the book is all the tools and the resources laid out, by life area that you might be stuck in. So the first tool, or the first step in the method, is to get clarity, right? To get clear and set an intention. A lot of us know that we aren't happy and we don't like our circumstances, but haven't really sat down and thought, well, what would I like to see instead? What would I like to experience instead? And you don't have to be super specific, and you don't, and when doing that, I always say it's a jumping off point, because the universe might take you in a direction that is something better than you think you want. So you always have to say this or something better. But you need that jumping off point. After that, step 2 is actually asking the universe for help and to partner with you. And I offer so many different tools on this, including, we talked about prayer and calling in that higher help, calling in what I call specialized higher helpers, which are different higher helpers that specialize in money, in health, in relationships, etc. Because you want, obviously you want your specialized help to that are the ones that are in control and helping in that particular area, right? I always say you don't want the car mechanic to come and fix your plumbing in real life, and it's sort of the same thing on the other side. But so there's that. There's crystals that I talk about, rituals that utilize prayer and crystals, and something that I call focused gratitude, which is not just doing gratitude in general, but actually doing gratitude on the area that you're most stuck in. So that's the second step. And I give all the different tools for that in that second half of the book to start asking the universe for help. And then the third step is shifting your energy, which is so important because we tend to go through our days, and sometimes we can get sucked down into a lower vibration. We can wind up, something happens and sends us on a negative spiral in our mind. And now we are at a lower vibration, or we're not in the present moment. And that present moment is where the signs and synchronicities and ideas are coming in. So I teach very simple ways that within minutes, we can shift our energy and get back into that present moment and to raise that vibration so we can notice the signs so that we can feel better about our circumstances. And then I mentioned step 4, which is receiving those signs, which you're already asking for help and receiving them in step 2. But I talk a little bit about how the universe communicates to us and how we can open up, and then taking the action so that the process can continue and you can continue to move forward step by step. The universe, as you're taking action, the universe will continue lighting up that path before you.
That's great. And is there like an example that from your own life of how you moved through all these 4 steps that you could share? Like, give us a simple example of like a situation or something that how you would, because you have it divided by health and by career and by different, which I really liked actually. Like if I'm going in for a career change, I might not need the same crystals and stones as, for my health. So what would be like an example of how somebody would work through this method?
Sure. So an example I can give is actually my own health struggles. I had suffered from all different types of allergic reactions for years and years. And I was in my early 30s and I just got really clear. And I said, you know what, the first step of I just want to know why my sinuses are swelling year round. I can't be allergic to, ragweed year round or whatever. I just want to know, I just want to solve the problem of my sinuses. That was my big thing. Although I had other allergies, that was my big thing. And so I started there. And I started actually saying a prayer to, I believe it was St. Jude, who is in the Catholic faith, is the patron saint of hopeless cases. And it was actually a ritual. That's how I was in a hopeless point. So, and it was funny because a friend of mine had given me this ritual. And it was like, I think I had to do it for 14 days straight. And there was all these, it was like, it took me 20 minutes a day. Like my stuff takes minutes, right? But this was like heavy. So I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start doing this ritual. And so I started saying this prayer and these hymns and this whole big thing. And I started asking for help, right? And then things got worse. I started breaking out in rashes. I started having digestive issues. Like it just seemed like my body blew up. And I remember saying to a friend that gave it to me, like, oh, this is broken. Like this is, this is doing the opposite of what it's supposed to be doing. But knowing that there are no mistakes or accidents, which I believe, I kept saying it. And in continually saying it, had this idea, well, maybe I have an issue with histamine. Let me do some research, right? So I took action. Of course, I'm always shifting my energy throughout the day, which is step 3, which is if I find myself going down, I'll do what I call a 60-second retreat where it's a mini meditation. I might do EFT or tapping. There's a lot of different things that we can do to shift our energy. But I started taking action and doing research on histamine issues. And then I said, I think that maybe my body has a problem metabolizing histamine, or I have like an overhistamine response. Well, one thing led me to another thing with those synchronicities. And I found somebody online who talked about a histamine diet. I took action again. I reached out to her. I said, I think I have this. She was in the UK, but did a call with me and actually she was in the UK, but recommended me to a doctor in New York that she said, listen, not a lot of people, and this is years ago, by the way, what I have now, which is a mast cell activation disorder, is way more accepted and understood than it was back when I was doing this. But this one doctor who happened to be, a 45-minute drive from me was dealing with this. So I took action and I called the doctor and I went to the doctor and she diagnosed me. And I said, oh my gosh, you don't understand. I've been living 30 plus years not having any idea that I had this. And she's like, you were likely born with it. And so immediately I started following a low histamine diet and I started, following her recommendations, and things started shifting and changing for me. And now I'm in a way better place. I've also gone the holistic energy healing route as well. But that finally led me to a diagnosis after 30 plus years of dealing with things. And it started, and that's why I always tell people, you have to trust, because I got worse first, right? So sometimes you don't get the answer you're expecting. It's not like all of a sudden I was magically healed. It was, I had to get worse so that I started doing some research and I started Googling some things and really self-diagnosing and then finding a doctor to confirm that diagnosis. But that's exactly how that played out. And it doesn't always look the way we think it's going to look. But I find the more that you use the system and you trust it, and you trust that the universe is not messing around with you and is truly always trying to help you, the more you're going to have faith that, okay, I don't know why this is happening, but it's sending me somewhere. So I'm just going to keep going. And that's one of the biggest examples, I think, for me, that made me realize, wait a minute, there's something here.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. And I want to unpack that just a little bit, because one of the things that I always teach people is that when you set off in a path, there's always the stronger the message, I find, the stronger the opposing wind. And,
Yes.
and probably because otherwise, if we were lollygagging, skipping down the path, and, it's like when you get a parking spot in, at the mall, you forget to say thank you to the helping angel, the parking angel.
Yes.
It was just too easy. So I always try, when I pull in, I always say thank you, to be really aware, but to be really aware of those oppositional forces that come in to really make you pay more attention.
Yes.
And I think that's the part that, oh, well, I tried to get this job and I didn't get the job. And so I must not, I must be a piece of shit and I must not be supposed to get in this job. Well, maybe you're supposed to get a better job.
Exactly.
You're supposed to rewrite your resume. And I so totally agree with you. And I've always said this or something better. Like when you're looking for a house, a lot of people, oh, I didn't get that one house. Well, you know what? I go see 10 houses because I don't know what I don't want in a house until I go see 10 houses. But then the 11th perfect house comes because that's the one for me.
Yeah.
And so I so agree with you that people forget that the legwork is important. And I really like to, and I think it'd be a good spot to, I kind of put this to a close, is that you have a daily practice. Why don't you tell us about the daily practice that people could invite into their lives and maybe, and of course, buy your book, which has more information in there. But you did outline a daily practice that you do every day that seems to be your manifesting credo.
Yes. And the thing is, it can look different for everyone, right? And that's why I give so many different options, because it as long as you're hitting those steps, how it looks like and the amount of time you take is completely up to you. It can be done in 10 minutes or less, right? A day. What I do personally is I have a breathing practice that I do called sky breath meditation. And I do that. I start my day centered. I start my day protected. So I always call in, my higher help, Archangel Michael. I call in Archangel Sandalphon to ground me, right? So I kind of have that protection and grounding prayer, and I do my breathing. Sometimes I do a just a meditation with a mantra after that. And I sort of start my day. After that, it depends. Sometimes I'll do reading. Sometimes I'll do some automatic writing with guides. It kind of depends on where I'm at that day. But I always start that. And whatever I'm working on, whatever problem I'm trying to solve, whatever, issue I feel stuck in that I'm asking for higher help with, I will say a prayer calling in help at that moment for whatever it is I'm working on. And I always tell people, pick 1 to 2 areas of your life. Don't go more than that when you're trying to use this method, because then your focus is going to be all over the place and you're not going to be paying as close attention to different signs. So just start with 1 or 2. And I promise you, if you start seeing help come through and movement in that area, odds are other areas of your life will start to shift as well. So I usually do that. I'm usually working on one thing where I will say a prayer for that day, calling in the helpers that I need specifically for whatever it is that I'm working on, whatever we are co-creating together. And sometimes if I'm working on a particular ritual, some of my rituals I have people do for several days in a row, which again includes a prayer. So I might do the prayer with that particular ritual. And I just work throughout the day to shift my energy, to notice when something happens and stresses me out or triggers me. Because I have centered myself in the morning, I can more easily see when I've shifted into a place that I don't want to be. And then I do the different exercises. Like I said, my 60-second, I tell people 60 seconds to 3 minutes of a meditation throughout the day, even if you do a morning meditation, can help you shift and refocus and recenter yourself throughout the day so you are more open to those signs. So those are just some things I think that I do. And again, it shifts depending on what am I working on. Am I working on something for my health? Am I asking for help with something for business? Am I trying to fix something with a relationship? And I tell people, customize a prayer for you. If you want to work on 2 different areas, take some of the prayers in the book, meld them together, and call in the higher helpers for the 2 areas that you're working on. But again, it can be done in 10 minutes or less. You can spread it out to an hour if you meditate for longer. It's completely up to you how you want to do it. But this method can be used and done in minutes and you will see progress. And the more that you do it, the more you're going to want to do, the more you're going to want to get crystals and just kind of what I say, supercharge it or kind of take it up a notch. But it can be started very simply.
That's great. So tell people where they can learn more about you and your book, which, we are, and I just want to put this out there. I'm sure there's a lot of you out there who are writing a book, right? Everyone wants to write a book. Well, not everyone, but most people we run into, oh, I got a book. All right. Well, writing a book is really hard. And anyone who's written a book and getting a book published knows that. We need you as authors to buy our books. And this is really important because, there's a lot of energy in there and you're going to be looking for the same people to buy your books when you go forward. So I always put a plug, buy the book. And, but I think this book is one of those books that I probably will refer back to because I do love how you have it organized. It's very well organized where not only in the table of contents, it tells you what's in the table of contents, but then it gives you the list of rituals and the list of the exercises. And then if you go to the back, you can find all of the angels and stuff like that as well. So that it's really well organized and it looks like an easy reference book that you'll go back to over and over again.
Yeah, and that's exactly how I put it together. I put it together because once you learn the method in the first part, it's meant to say, oh my gosh, I'm stuck around money. Let me go to the money chapter and see what ritual or see who I need to call on. Oh, now I'm having a health issue. Let me go to that. And that's literally how I created it for exactly what you said.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed that. So it's really well organized. So I suggest doing it. And then if people want to learn more about you, what's your website?
Yes, they can go to tammymastroberte.com. And there's actually a freebie right on the homepage where if you're new to this and you want to try out the prayer, I actually it's my 3 tools for higher help or 3 tools for higher helpline communication. And one of them is a morning prayer that you can customize for yourself. And so that's, they can find me there. And then I'm on all the different social media. I go live every Thursday at noon Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram for what I call Weekly Spirit Boost, where I just teach and chat and answer questions as well.
That's great. And I'll have the links in the chat here so that you know how to reach her, because the name is like Mastroberte, which is pronounced Birdie, Mastroberte. And
Yes.
so a little tricky. What nationality is that?
It's Italian.
Oh, I should know. And you live what, in New Jersey?
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I just went to a restaurant in LA last week that had food that reminded me of New York. I was very excited because
Oh, nice.
there's just nothing like the Italian food you can get on the East Coast.
Yes.
So I want to really thank you for coming here and for educating my listeners, and maybe you'll share it in your listeners to this conversation. And again, everyone buy your book and check out our website.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me.